Good morning, Paulette.
Good morning, Fiona.
I'd like to introduce you to everyone. Like me, you are British and you've been settled in Toulouse. I can't remember what year you arrived.
We arrived in 2010.
So a little bit less than me. You run the Agence AXA International, a dedicated insurance agency for Anglophones, or rather your team are all Anglophones, and therefore those arriving in France, whether for business or personal insurance. And also last year, you opened on behalf of the Franco-British Chamber, the Your Experts in France, the Toulouse Business Centre.
That's right.
Super. Now let's dive into the heart of the subject today, which is insurance. And we need to be certain that everybody has the policies in place. So I've imagined a case study because I think it speaks more to everybody. And this is for Tom Atkins. Tom is the managing director of Atkins International, a recognized landing gear equipment firm who've recently opened their testing center in Toulouse. Tom is also planning on moving with his family, 3 children, elderly parents. They're buying a house in the area, and Sally, his wife, hopes to open and run a gîte bed and breakfast. So let's start off with Atkins International France. What will be required in the way of insurance?
Okay, so a company in France there's 3 areas that we look at for insurance. So there's liability, so like the UK, public liability, employee liability, and that's rolled into one policy in France rather than being 2 separate policies. It's more modular, so it's really good, easy to tailor that policy to the company's needs. The next area is physical things, so premises, goods in transit, vehicles, if you have like fleet of vehicles. And then the third area is people, so to look after your staff, so like health insurance, death in service, employee benefits and things like that. So we'd look at those 3 areas for a company.
Interesting. So one of the big questions that a lot of international firms have is around the famous supplementary health insurance, the mutuelle, for their employees. Is that mandatory?
It is actually mandatory in France. There are some exceptions, so I can't say it's 100% mandatory. There are exceptions, but generally, yes, as soon as you have 1 employee or more, you are obliged to offer a mutuelle top-up policy.
And what about the family? Will they have a right to benefit from the French state medical insurance?
They do. Anybody who's been living permanently in France for 3 months or more has an automatic right to apply for a social security number. However, as Tom and his family are arriving with active status, he's going to be employed, he can actually apply for his social security number straight away. So he doesn't have to wait for the 3 months.
That's good. But his elderly parents, I believe that they can benefit from remaining on the UK National Health. Is that right?
Yes and no. So yes, they do, but they would need to apply for a document that's called an S1 from the DWP, Department for Work and Pensions in the UK, pass that to the health authorities in France, which means that they will get a French social security number, but whenever they have treatments, there will be a reciprocal agreement that will be claimed back to the UK. So yes, the UK is still paying, but it's as though it's France paying. It's the social security here do all the necessary in the background for the payment.
So they will be applying also for their social security
Exactly.
numbers. Now, moving on to applying for social security numbers, we know that this takes time. So what would you suggest for Tom and the family when they arrive? Because with children, you want to have a coverage. You can't be without anything.
Yeah. So you can apply, whilst Tom can apply for the social security number, Tom and his family can apply. The day they arrive, they're not likely to do that. They've just arrived with suitcases and maybe pets and things like that. You don't sit down and say, hey, I'm going to apply today. But even if they did, they're not going to get it straight away. It's going to take 3 to 6 months, probably nearer the 6 months in reality. Can also take longer. We've known a case where it's been much longer than that, but on average, we say 3 to 6 months. So what we can do to cover that time is like a standalone health insurance policy. which will just cover accident and emergency. You can top that up and have it to include, say, doctor's visits and things like that, but that would cost a lot more. And in reality, if you go to see a doctor, it's going to cost you €30. So whilst you may not get that refunded straight away, it's not going to break the bank either. And also, once you've applied for your social security number, you'll be given a brown form, although all Brits call it the brown form. You keep that. So once you've got your social security number, you can actually send them in. So although you've paid up front for those doctor's visits, you will get them refunded eventually if you remember to send them in.
Very good. Now, what about the house?
So not dissimilar to the UK. So the major difference between the UK and France in terms of home insurance is in France, risks are multi-risks. So there's a list of things like fire, water damage, climatic events, theft, vandalism. That's what's covered. Whereas in the UK, it's all risks. Doesn't matter what caused the risk, you're covered. Whereas in France, there's very much more like a public liability element. So if somebody else causes that damage, you would claim on their insurance rather than your own insurance. So a little bit of a difference, but otherwise, you know, for all intents and purposes, it will cover the same sort of things. But also in France, home insurance will include public liability insurance, which is called Responsabilité Civile Vie Privée, and that will cover you for not your property, but you and your family for any damage or injury you cause to someone or something. Now that's not included in a UK home insurance policy, so a little bit of a difference there.
That's a bit different. And then I think that there is one difference, which is a major difference compared to the UK, is that in France, schools require supplementary insurance for the children.
They really do. I was astonished when I arrived in France that I had to go and get insurance for my children. But basically it's the same thing, because if the children at school cause damage or injury, which can include my daughter and her friend ran into each other in the playground, her friend's glasses were damaged, you know, her friend's family were able to claim the cost of replacing the glasses. It wasn't anybody's fault. Nobody sued anybody. It was just an admin, you know, an admin task to just claim on the public liability insurance on the Responsabilité Civile. Schools also, though, that part is included in your home insurance. Schools will also require accident insurance to cover your child. So, say for example, your child needs to be taken off in an ambulance to a hospital, that they know that cost is going to be covered also. It makes it sound, you know, oh gosh, that's really complicated, it must be really expensive, I've got 3 children. Not at all. Our policy starts at €9.90 for the whole year, with a reduction for 2 or more children.
Very
so
reasonable.
It covers a lot, but it's really quite reasonable.
Going back to the house insurance, however, is that going to cover Sally's gîte bed and breakfast business or not?
If she doesn't declare it, no.
Right.
Because the Responsabilité Civile included in your home insurance is vie privée, so like personal life. So as soon as you take payment for something, that's not vie privée. So she needs to just let us know that she's going to run the property as a gîte or a bed and breakfast. We pop a clause on the policy, costs an average of about €60 a year, and she's covered for public liability insurance then.
If Sally actually operated as a business with a company or that sort of setup for her gîte bed and breakfast, that would not be included in the policy for the house, correct?
No, so she would need to do a separate policy that's called an MRP, multi-risk professional. But even if she didn't set up as a separate company, she can choose to take the MRP policy as well. And the difference between the clause on your home insurance policy and an MRP is that the MRP will cover you for loss of income. So say for example there's a water leak and you suddenly then can't let the bedroom in your bed and breakfast because, you know, there's half the ceiling's falling in, so you've lost that income for bookings while that repair's been taking place. That will be covered on the MRP, whereas on a normal home insurance all you're covering is the public liability insurance. You're covering loss of income. So what we tend to do with clients running, say for example a gîte or a bed and breakfast, is we'll ask them, is it the main source of income? And even if it's not, how important is it for them to lose that income, if they were to lose that income? And if it's important and they want to cover it, we can do the MRP so that, and you know, we can cover the loss of income.
Yes.
Exactly.
Excellent. Of course, there's one thing that we haven't covered, but it's pretty obvious, I think, whatever country you're coming from, and that would be the car insurance. which naturally I'm sure that Agence International AXA does cover.
Yeah, we cover it. You name it, we'll insure it. For clients coming from another country, we know the rules, whether you need to exchange your driving licence, whether you can keep using your driving licence. There's slightly different rules for British clients than other countries, just because after Brexit there was such a rush of British already living in France trying to exchange the driving licences, so you don't always have to exchange your licence straight away. It depends on when you passed your test. But we know all that, and we can give you advice on that. We can convert your UK no claims bonus into the French system, and explain everything. Car insurance actually is very, very similar to the UK. There's not really a difference in terms of the levels of cover. Third party only, third party fire and theft, fully comprehensive. The only difference is breakdown recovery is included on your car insurance in France rather than it being separate companies.
Well, thank you very much, Paulette. I
welcome.
think we've covered the main subjects for the Atkins family and the company, and all I can say is I would suggest that people get in contact with you if they need any insurance, especially as you have a dedicated English-speaking team.
We do. Yes, get in touch.
Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you.